Well, let's talk about that. This trade window opening with Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. We found out on SmackDown last week per Chad Gable, and then reinforced by Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce on SmackDown and Raw, respectively. This was rumored a while ago, a couple of months ago. I don't know if it was from Fightful or WrestleVotes or whatever, but it was rumored that WWE might be holding a draft of some sort before the move to Netflix to kind of switch up the rosters. And I mean, what that translates into is that Netflix wants bigger stars on Raw. They want the Roman Reigns and or the Cody Rhodeses and people like that. They want CM Punk. They already have CM Punk. But like now that SmackDown is not a priority at all, SmackDown's on USA and they're going to be on Netflix, which is a far bigger priority. They're going to treat this like the SmackDown on Fox thing from 5 years ago, where they had Roman Reigns on SmackDown back in 2019. This is going to be the exact same fucking thing. I think Roman Reigns is almost guaranteed to move, and we'll talk about what they're planning for that first Netflix show in a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of potential trades that could be going on here, all of which I'll discuss in a moment. But off the top of your head, Mr. Marceau, first of all, are you in favor of them doing not a draft, but like a pseudo draft, a talent trade window exchange with some of these superstars to kind of freshen up the rosters before the Netflix move? Are you in favor of it, or do you think it's dumb if they're going to do a draft in April anyway?
It all depends on if they're going to do a draft or not. If they, handle it like soccer kind of, like they do a transfer window, it's one that's, in the midsummer and then one that's in the winter. I don't hate it. I think it's better than the draft. The draft, I think, is dumb. They're like, oh, Roman Reigns staying on Raw. Dumb.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that interesting, so I'd rather go with, the transfer window. I just feel bad for who gets transferred to NXT. That's a rough one, but...
Well, do you think anyone...
I think it's a good idea.
Do you think anyone would get transferred to NXT? I honestly, I know no one even gets drafted to NXT. I know it doesn't make much sense for NXT to be involved in this talent exchange logistically and then for them to not get anyone. Why the fuck would Ava give any of these brands their talent? In a draft, you could say, well, they're picking talent. It's only Raw and SmackDown. No one gets drafted to NXT. Well, in a talent exchange, you would think Ava would be like, okay, you can take X, Y, and Z, but I want this person. There's got to be at least one person, right? But I'm just not sure who that would be.
There has to be some kind of, like you said, it's a transfer, so I feel like it's 1 for 1, 2 for 1, 2 for 2. I don't know. I feel like it's like a trade.
I mean, on paper, let's be honest, it's not going to be fair. Just for the NXT talent alone, a lot of the people I think from Deadline could be eligible. I mean, everyone's eligible in storyline, but I'm talking the Trick Williamses and the Roxanne Perez's. I don't know when this trade window closes. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's already open, I suppose, and we saw superstars negotiating their moves this past week on Raw and SmackDown. But, if Williams and Perez do lose their respective titles at New Year's Eve, that's not until January 7th, and that's after the Netflix show. So it would have to be after that or before the Royal Rumble. Who the fuck knows? Roxanne Perez has already been in the Rumble twice. I guess if she were to show up for a third time, that would be her official debut. With Trick Williams, he could also be in the Rumble, and that could be his main roster call-up, a lot like it was with Damian Priest years ago and Braun Breaker last year. They could take the same route, but, is there anyone from Raw and SmackDown that you could see moving to NXT? Again, it's not going to be fair. She's going to be like, oh yeah, you guys can take Trick Williams and Ethan Page and Roxanne Perez. I'll take Akira Tozawa. That's not going to make any sense at all, but it would be better than nothing at least.
Yeah, I'd send all of the old Alpha Academy back down to NXT if I had to pick anyone.
Okay, Maxine Dupree, Otis, and Akira Tozawa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Who from Raw and SmackDown could you see switching shows?
It's a great question. It sounds like Netflix wants everyone, so it's like Cody going, Roman Reigns going, I don't know. It sounds like they want everyone, so, SmackDown's pretty top-heavy. I would definitely get Roman on Raw, just because to get him away from the bloodline, because I don't think they're going to move Solo and all those other guys. So, I think Roman's definitely going. I'd probably move Bayley. I know she was on Raw talking to Adam Pearce, but I think I'd move Bayley. Maybe you move Tiffany just to get her away from Nia.
Mm-hmm.
And Ludwig's on Raw anyway, so get them together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Raw the other direction. Maybe Sheamus to SmackDown. I feel like he's done all he can really do on Raw. He's lost the belt 1,000 times. Maybe he can go to SmackDown and beat Nakamura. Yeah, so all the people I think of the top of my head.
What about American Made? We saw them on SmackDown. Chad Gable facing Cody Rhodes. Any
hey,
hope for...
yes.
No,
hey, yes.
No Chad Gable hope on SmackDown? Do you think he has a chance of a push on Friday nights?
a chance. I don't think. I mean, if Raw's going to 3 hours, maybe we should just stay on Raw. But I mean, they're pretty much flatter than a plate full of piss at this point. I mean, they lost the Wyatt Six like 1,000 times. They never win it when it matters most. Just a poorly booked team that they were like semi-pushing.
Could they / should they move any championships from one brand to another, whether it be the mid-card titles or specifically the world championships? Is that something you're in favor of, or do you think it's not necessary? Because to me, I don't think it's necessary.
I would just keep them where they are.
I mean, you can make the argument if Raw wants, Roman Reigns and all these other people, Cody Rhodes. Is Gunther really going to be the guy as the World Heavyweight Champion on Raw? I mean, I think he can be. If you have Roman Reigns on that show, Roman could beat him for that belt in a fucking month, first of all. Second of all, I think if you move him to SmackDown, he could be the guy over there. I just feel like that admits defeat where it's like, all right, we are unable to make him the guy on Raw, so he's not overshadowed, we'll put him on SmackDown. I don't really feel like that's fair. I also don't want to see them move Cody to Raw, because if you move Cody to Raw with Roman Reigns, and then we're back in the same spot that we've been in for the last year or two, where they're on the same show, and they're constantly involved, and, I mean, I don't know, I guess
Roman's not full-time, so it's a little different.
But I guess it's a double-edged sword,
I mean,
though.
also, if Cody loses the belt, he could also, it wouldn't really matter at that point.
Loses the belt on Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you move... I guess. What, the belt thing not mattering, or the fact that he would be staying on SmackDown?
You can move him to Raw, and it's not like he has the belt.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I mean, that's possible. And I guess it would also... It's a double-edged sword, because if you move Roman Reigns, he's on the same show as Roman Reigns, but if you keep the new bloodline on SmackDown, and I think they should, then Cody's on the same show as them, who he's been feuding with for most of the year. So I guess the Raw thing would be better. SmackDown would be worse, so we're not getting more Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa matches.
I mean, I guess you could switch them, and you could have Gunther and Ludwig go to SmackDown, and then you said I don't know. You'd have to move a few people because there's so many people that have been intertwined for so long.
Yeah.
A breakup is necessary, but like you said, if you move Cody and Roman to Raw, Roman's not full time. But then it's if Cody was champion, you're not going to have both champions on Raw, so you'd have to move Gunther at that point.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. There's a lot of different trades they could do. I mean, I know they were teasing... I like the Bayley and Tiffany ones. Tiffany, they could do a swerve where she's been teasing cashing in a Nia Jax this entire time, and then the blow-off is that she cashes in on the Raw title instead. So that's definitely a positive. And you mentioned getting her on the same brand as her boyfriend, Ludwig Kaiser, so that would also be a positive from a behind-the-scenes standpoint. The Bayley thing I like. She really doesn't have much more to do on SmackDown at this point anyway. But we saw Dominic talking to, I think it was Adam Pearce, or rather Nick Aldis on SmackDown last week.
Aldis.
Yeah, Nick Aldis on SmackDown in the background. Do you think this could... I mean, I assume that was just a red herring, obviously. But is there a chance that Dominic could take over for the Judgment Day? Finn Balor loses on Saturday. He loses on Monday, because they already announced on Monday's Raw they're doing a rematch between the Judgment Day and the Warrior Raiders for the World Tag Team titles. So I think it's kind of suspect they've already announced... Balor was already getting the shot. They added Priest, though. So I think it's interesting that they're kind of seemingly, possibly finishing that feud with Priest. And they're also doing the tag team title match next Monday to probably, hopefully, get the fucking belts off those two. Could we then see Balor move over to SmackDown and get him out of the Judgment Day? The Judgment Day, unfortunately, I mean, this current version of Judgment Day sucks. But, I mean, do you think they would stay a thing without Finn Balor and just move him to SmackDown instead?
I think moving Finn to SmackDown would be, they're talking about this big push that he's allegedly going to get next year. Mm-hmm. I think he needs to go to SmackDown to get that push. Especially if they're trading a lot of the big names to Raw. I think you can kind of build Balor up again, and I mean, he needs to be out of the... Like I said, this version of Judgment Day, I don't want to say it sucks, it's just not as good as the original, so I think breaking him off would be ideal at this point.
No, I totally agree. I feel like that would probably be for the best. I mean, we've seen so much tension between Balor and Dominic now recently, and it's just, I mean, the group is fine. I'm emphasizing when I say they suck. I'm just kind of exaggerating. But, I just feel like it could be better. They have 1 million members there at this point. I'd get Balor out of there. It really needs to be, I mean, I don't know about JD and fucking Carlito, but it really only needs to be, if anything, Dominic, Raquel, and Liv. They're their own little mini group anyway, so they can kind of keep it going with them too, and then JD and Carlito could team up if they want to. Who cares? Who gives a shit? But that's just a possibility. So yeah, a lot of different potential moves they can make. I think they can really switch up the rosters. Going back to your original point, though, I think I agree. Listen, first of all, I'm a draft fan. I always have been a WWE draft fan. I'm not like goo goo gaga over the format. I think the format sucks. Because like you said, they make a big deal over people staying on shows. I mean, I like the randomization of it more from like 10, 15 years ago, but like logically, that shit made no sense. Why the fuck would they be like, oh yeah, we'll battle for draft picks and then leave it up to a randomizer? Like, that's stupid. Then what's the point of having GMs? So I think the talent thing, the talent exchange thing, which you could do at least 2 or 3 different points throughout the year, I think that might make more sense as opposed to doing a draft right after WrestleMania where you're going to have a lot of feuds that you're not going to want to end right after WrestleMania, so no one's going to really move rosters as we saw earlier this year. I was in favor of most of the moves they made or did not make earlier this year, but it doesn't really warrant a 2-week draft process or a 2-day draft process between Raw and SmackDown where they're wasting precious television time on telling you where these people are staying and where they're not, because most people don't even remember where these people are originally. That's another part of the story too, so I'm in full favor on that as well.
Yeah, I think if you do it, like depending on how they do it, I think you do one now, leading into Rumble and WrestleMania, and then you do one probably right before. I'm trying to think, because SummerSlam is in the beginning of August. You can either do it right before SummerSlam or right after. Even if people switch brands right before SummerSlam, you can just blow off those matches at SummerSlam, and then they have a fresh slate for Raw and SmackDown if they transfer different shows. So I think you do one in the summer, one in the winter, and like it's kind of in between the two periods, like you're building into WrestleMania or like into the down period, and then so I think that'd be the best way to do it. Like the draft, when you're drafting the same people, it just doesn't make it interesting at all.
No, I agree. I think the trade thing makes stuff more interesting. You can utilize the GMs more and kind of make them feel more useful and whatnot. So make it a biannual thing. Do it twice a year. I feel like that would make the most sense. And, do away with the draft process, which, like I said, I feel like that has run its course. They've tried it a couple different times, including under Triple H. It's not a Vince McMahon problem. Vince was not involved in the most recent draft, and it still was not the most exciting. So I totally agree on that front.